Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we were discussing about AWS service like AWS Cognito. AWS Cognito, Amazon Cognito. Firstly, we have to understand what is AWS Cognito. Why would you use these services? Amazon Cognito is a medium which provides authentication, authorization, and user management for the web and mobile applications, in which the user can sign in directly with the username and password or through a third party such as like we are using Amazon's, Google, Facebook, Apple. So these are the services they have used, in which we have the AWS services that offers the authentications and authorization features. Authentications refers to the process of identifying who the person is, that usually done through some kind of login form. Or if you have like an iPhone, for example, that uses facial identifications to unlock your phone, technically that a form of authentication because the application is figuring out who you are as an individual. And authorization is the other half of that. Authorizations refers to what an individual has access of certain access rights. Could be an AWS service, could be a certain web pages that only accessible for administrators. So for the authentication, or often we have user is an authorization, or it is like a services which became more relevant. Later on, we have like allow you to add user registration, sign in, and access control. So these are the services that provide Amazon Cognito. This means that you are building a web application, you want to offer some kind of login functionality where you can collect like a bunch of users and their informations. And also given the availability for that users to sign in, and you only want to sign in user to able to access your applications. And this kind of things that you can do with Amazon Cognito. Now, Cognito is like a scalable and high available resources of AWS service that supports up to 40 million users out of the box. It is also very cost effective as well as is totally managed service by AWS. All the data about your users is stored within the Amazon Cognito services. There's no compute, there's no storage, and no nothing that you can need to worry about it. All the hidden for you and managed by Cognito. Behind the scale now in terms of protocols that are supported by Cognito, in terms of authorizations and authentications. It supports standard based on identity providers. So it's a like a OAuth like 2.0 and is familiar with the OIDC and SAML. And there's some legacy we have using these services like Cognito is overall the useful for the many different contexts. So we already briefed us in the features of the services that allow you to keep on active directory of that users. That's why we use the user management, authorizations, and synchronization of all the data of the user signings. So this is what we have to know about like AWS Cognito. So now we have to go for the user pool and identity pool. User pool is the features like of the AWS services where we have to create a users. User pools is creating like a like user pool is like a fundamental purpose that we user pool provide is the ability to manage a directory of users. So think of them as a pool of users, and you can have applications or many applications that interact with that user pool, and the flow look like a bit of like it's like a center of we have to Amazon Cognito the services itself. You have an application that you want to provide that users, so that you can offer some kind of login functionality on your application so that only a certain subset of users can access. Maybe you have an API server over here, so the application interact with user pool. So submit credentials in the normal kind of login forms, and there's exchange of tokens that goes on here in all about the particular Amazon Cognito. They have a protocol, they have a supports, they have most popular one is like addition some kind of exchange of the pools allow you to either Amazon Cognito itself can identify the provider or using any kind of their social sign-ins on the identity provider. So, for example, like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, so on forth. Now that means that you have an application developer has two different options. You can have your user sign up and register their credentials directly within the Amazon Cognito as a service. So you can you can use the user create a username, create a password, create a secret answer secret key, and etc. These are the case of Cognito itself. And they have the identity provider. Now in addition, if you have using auth services, then you can also integrate other social sign-on providers into your user pool. So every one of you some point of lives have probably sign in with the Google sign in, with the Facebook sign in, and Amazon sign in, and that probably ID use seen that the past, so that you can do with the Cognito as you have to integrate these other integrate identity providers into your user pool. So that's offer is the ability to add that sign in and Google sign in with the Facebook. And when user use that identity, that is managed by these external systems. You also get a record of that user in your system. So in other words, user can either be added to your user pool by directly creating a user with incognito, or by you integrating your user pool with any of the social sign-in provider. So you can let the user log in into this provider, which allow you to get record of them, and then let be authenticated into your system. So that kind of how this social sign-in system work, and how the token exchange incognito overall. So again, user pool are the all about user management and kind of user registration and sign in and login, that kind of stuffs. Now that kind of identity pool user useful for the providing short-term access to AWS services. And then we have to go for the web applications and web apps that you need to use to authenticate and login provider. So these are the services that has been used for the user pool which we have. Now we have to understanding the identity pool, like why would use identity pool in this Cognito. So identity pool can obtain a temporarily Amazon credential to access Amazon services such as like Amazon S3 and DynamoDB. Like identity pool support anonymous guest users as well as the following identity providers that you can use to authenticate user for identity pools like Amazon Cognito User Pools, social sign in with the Facebook, Google, for example, etc. like Amazon and Apple. And then we have used the connect with the OIDC providers like OpenID Connect providers. Then developer authentication will identify this side of to save this user information. Use your identity pool need to be integrated with this user pools. So that's why we use identity pool. Now we have to understand like why we used to create such features of like why use cognito on that. Now why we use cognito. So Cognito have their services, their different features like enhanced security, like the security purpose they have very highly scalable on using a Cognito. Then we have a cross-platform consistency. Cross-platform consistency means like we have how the applications work, like how they have user can use this services. Then we have used guest and social media logins, like you can log into any of the applications as we discussed in previous, like how they have useful for their services in this manner. Then we have used MFA and password policies, like we have used um, MFA securities, like no can access your applications, no can access your passwords. Then we have a marketing analytics, how they have marketing will work in this, like how they then we have used to create the like user pool and identity pool, like why would use it, as we already discussed, like why we use user pool and identity. User pool is the user directory that provides sign in functions and sign in option for your web and mobile app users. And identity pool provides AWS credentials to grant user access to any of the AWS services. Now we have to creating a user pool with the Cognito, like how they have used to sign in. Now I have to show you my AWS console where we have to create a Cognito user pool on this AWS Cognito window. Now I have to show you my AWS console. This is my console which I have to work on it, and we have to work on the Cognito. Now I have to search Cognito on my search window. Now this is the Amazon Cognito where we have to manage our user pool. Now I have to click on user pool. so that I can use my latest console. Now I have to create user pool over here. So here I have to provide my type like Cognito user pool where I have to use email, my sign in options which I have used. There's three type username, email, and phone number. I have used email, so now I have to click on my email. This is a configuration security environment where we have to means like a requirement which type of requirement you have to contain your password requirements. Like I have used on a personally, I have used lowercase. Now I have not required any MFA over here. This is like multi-factor authorization or authentication. Now in this window, I have to just check all the things has been correct or not, like email functionality, like, and you have to write any attributes over here. You have to select anything, but in my case, I'm not using anything over here because I'm creating a user for my pool. So I have selected the send email with the Cognito, where we have to select and now I have to given the name like I have test pool 1 to 1. I have given that name. There's a three initial app client which you have to use, like public client and initial like use Cognito window I have used. So I have given the name domain like I have select effort so that it will be available here. Public client, confidential client, and others. I have used public client over here. There is a name I have to provide test app. Now I have provided the URL over here. So I copy all this thing and now I have to copy and paste over here. This is a URL which you have to select. You can use to run on the different browser, like on which you have to sign in or sign up your pages uh, on this user. Now to create user pool. So this is my test pool. My user pool name has been selected, but there is no any user over here. So I have to go to app integration and now I have to click on test app. We have to view hosted URL. So this is a sign up page. Now here I have to sign up and now I have to give my email ID over here and I have to provide such password which I have to remember so that whenever I have to sign in, so that should be login on that password. So it should be like I have provided previously on my lowercase over here. So now sign in and this is automatically generated one code over on my email ID. So this sending some code on my email ID which I have to copy and then they can sign in for that site. So this is the verification code which I have received on my email ID. Now I go to my spam, but there is no any email ID over here. Now I've got my verification code over here. This is my verification code. Now I have to enter this code on my sign in page. Now I have to confirm my email ID over here. Now I have to just go to my AWS console. This is already signed in my now I have to check again. Now in user they already created. So I have to just refresh it and my user has been created. So now I have to click on this confirm email ID. So these are the steps we have to create our user. So these are the steps we have to follow and create our user from this. Thank you.